How's it going there, guys? James here from Butler Farms, out here on a weekday afternoon getting done what I can get done, guys. My weekends are so slammed right now with everything that's going on here on the homestead. When I get a chance, I got to do it. Plus there's something that came in the mail today that I've got to get done. It can't wait, and so considering it's about 3 or 4 days to the weekend, I don't want to take the chance of leaving these out. What I've got going on is, I've told y'all in the past about expanding as many ways as you can on the homestead. The more that you can produce and the more self-sustaining you can be, the better off you'll be. Now, I don't have any grand ideas that I'm ever going to be completely sustainable here, but we're getting better. As you know, I grow most of our vegetables here, and that's going to expand. Yeah, I've shown you in the past where I'm going to expand the garden to. We are now getting capable of being able to can in large amounts and put that stuff up and keep it. And we're going to be growing more of it. Now, as I continue to age here in the next year, hopefully, when I retire, I'll be able to put more time into that and really start cutting down on that food bill. And it's not just about money. It's just being able to know what you are putting in your bodies. And you know, I have shown you many times the ingredients that a lot of these things have in them. What they're spraying up there in the skies, that's not cool. You know, all the stuff they spray on the industrial foods, all the GMO headache that's going on. I don't want that in my body, and I don't want to feed it to my family. And so I'm going to grow as much as I can. So we've got vegetables here. We've got fruit here, as I've told you before. We've got young pear trees and apple trees. We've got producing blueberries. We've got producing strawberries. We've got fig trees that started producing last year and should really jump this year. My pear trees produced a little bit last year, so I expect good things from them this year, and it's only going to get better. When I do get retired, I'm going to get back into animals. We'll have chickens, both for meat chickens and egg chickens, and possibly some other animals too. But one thing that we do not have is nuts, some kind of plant protein like that can be stored long term and made into a bunch of different things. Now, I've shown you these before. These are probably 60-year-old pecan trees. I talked to the head guy at our agricultural school here in the state that is over pecan trees, and these types of trees that you see all over Alabama were basically given out for free for people to plant. The problem is, and I don't think they understood it at the time, it was not intentional. It was something, it was a hybrid or something, I don't remember how he explained it to me, that was really not supposed to be here. And so we've had nothing but issues with these. Now, the story is, even before I came up here, these used to produce big time. We don't get any pecans off of them now. Every couple of years they'll put out a crop of pecans, but the problem is they're completely infested with little worms that drill into the pecans. And in the summer you'll start seeing these big spider web looking things up in the trees, and that's them. But you know, there is stuff that you can spray on them, and that's not going to happen here for three reasons. First of all, these are way past their prime anyway, so putting a lot of time and money into them is probably diminishing returns. Number two is the cost of having them sprayed, and it's not a one-time deal. It's something that I would have to do, and right now we only have 7 surviving pecan trees, and to get somebody up here with a piece of equipment that could spray all the way up in the top of those trees, it is so cost prohibitive, plus the cost of what they're actually spraying. Number 3, I don't spray up here. I do not have Roundup up here. I do not have chemical fungicides, pesticides, herbicides. It does not go up here. I've got signs out at the road that they're not even to spray the ditch, and I spend part of my time with a weed eater every summer out there making sure that I keep the ditches and the ditch banks cleaned off so that they don't get any bright ideas and come down through there spraying. I haven't had to call them yet because of spraying, because I think they see my signs, but I don't want that anywhere up here. So I sure don't want to be eating a bunch of nuts that's been sprayed with that stuff. So therefore, I don't usually buy that kind of stuff from the grocery store unless I can find them organic. So we're getting into nut trees. There's a nursery here in North Alabama, Whitetail Hills Chestnuts is what it is. And the story that I've read, the guy started it because he was looking for mass trees for wildlife, to plant for deer and things like that. Well, that is still his main business, but he also has trees that can be used for, obviously, human consumption. So I am putting my third of 3 American hazelnuts in the ground. Now, if you don't know what a hazelnut is, if you've ever eaten Nutella, that's hazelnuts. Of course, I don't see me making a bunch of homemade Nutella, but it is a high protein source. They're very good for you, and the same ones that they plant for deer are the same ones that people eat. The other 2, I've got 2 other trees that is a hybrid chestnut. Now, chestnuts almost got wiped out here decades ago. This is a hybrid that will not fall to those same issues, and so it'll, and these trees, according to him, are going to be producing in as little as 3 to 4 years, and then they'll just continue to increase in production. So I don't know if I'll plant any more nut trees up here, but 3 of these hazelnut trees and 2 of those chestnut trees, if I can keep the deer out of them, which is going to be a big deal around here, who knows, it may be more once we put them up that it'll last us a solid year. But just trying to add one more element to being able to be more self-sustaining. So what I wanted to show you is I have a lot of people asking me about planting. Usually it's about my blueberries. How do you plant them? How deep do you plant them? Guys, if you read online, they make this stuff so incredibly difficult. It's not that difficult. I'm going to turn you around and show you what I got here. It's getting kind of dark, but I think you'll be able to see it. All right, this is one of my American hazelnut trees that they sent me. They came in the mail today. You can already see it's got a couple of buds that are trying to pop out on it. These are bare root trees, and they came wrapped together in some moist soil, and so that's why I've got to get them in the ground. You cannot let these things dry out. So once you get them, you got to get them in the ground. Now, if I hadn't opened that bag, I probably could have waited a day or 2, but I don't want to do that. The quicker I can get them in, the better. Now, my wife looked at the chestnut trees. She said those things are dead because they got brown leaves on them. No, they're dormant. So they ship them to you at the right time of the year while they're dormant to get them in the ground, and then they'll leaf out this first spring. Now, with this bare root tree, you can see this thing has a long taproot on it. So I've had to dig a big hole, and right over here to the side, right over there, is some of our trusty roots from these pecan trees. But I've finally gotten it deep enough where I can put it down in the hole without cramping it, without bending it, and then I'll start backfilling it. Now, you can see where the soil line was on this tree. And so where that soil line was, I either want it even with the top of my hole or a little bit above the top of my hole. You don't want it below where it was in the ground before, okay? So here in a minute when I get through filming, I don't have anybody to film for me. What I'll do is, you've seen this many times before. It's just an old feed sack that's been cut open. Every time I plant something, I put it on the feed sack so that I can simply rake it back in, and I've got Mother Earth to put right next to that tree. I don't, and I'm not having to scrape it out of the grass. Now, I have shaken the dirt out of the grass, so it's mostly grass free. You can see the deeper I got, it got a little bit red, but you can see this is some really nice looking topsoil and dirt, very rich looking. So what I'll do is I'll come about halfway up the hole and get it good and in there, and where it'll stand up on its own. And then I always spring for, I think it's $1.50 per tree. Now, I don't do this with my blueberries, but a lot of people use rooting compounds and stuff like that. When you buy trees, sometimes they will give you the option to be able to buy, and I've always called this microhyzae, I don't know how you pronounce it, but you know, it's not grammar class. But what I do is, as you can see on the directions, I've got my tablespoon there. I'll get it about halfway, I'll fill it up about halfway with dirt, and then I'm gonna sprinkle a tablespoon of that on about halfway up. It doesn't matter if it's in the bottom of the hole or about halfway up. And what that does is that kind of jump starts all of the beneficial fungi in the soil to really get those roots going and supporting this tree, not just supporting as in structure, but supporting as in getting it up and growing. So, you know, for $1.50 extra, if I'm going to pay what I paid for these trees, which they're not cheap, but they're long-term investments, you know, for an extra $1.50, you know, to put a tablespoon of that in there to kickstart this up, you know, it's worth it to me. Now, as soon, I've got 2 other ones down through there. That's an old broken power pole from the storm that when it went down, and for some reason when they cleaned up out here with the bulldozers and stuff, they didn't bother to push that on down, which is kind of in the way. That old creosote post, I wish it wasn't there. But right on the other side of it, there are 2 more, and I'm planting them kind of close together simply because the you know, as far as fertilization and pollination and those kind of things. Now I could have spread them out more than this, but you know, this is just convenient. It's right here by the house. They're not going to get too tall to be able to see out of the yard and those kind of things. Now, one problem that I have up here, that is a septic tank. From the old house that used to be here. We had to replace the septic tank when the house was still here. But the good thing is that septic tank probably was not used for 6 months before that house was vacated and we took it down. I also know this, that the field lines are right down through the center of this yard, okay? So they're not going up beside my trees there. They're down here below the trees, and you can see how that falls off. So even if it was full, which it's not, it's nowhere near full, even if it was full and feeding those field lines, it has no chance of getting up to my trees. So I feel good about this. You know, I'm on this side of it. The field lines go that way, and plus, like I said, there's no way that septic tank is even close to halfway full, and it's not functional anymore because the house is gone. So the last thing I'll do before I leave here is, you see my trusty bucket there full of water. You must water things in when it comes to blueberry bushes, when it comes to trees. You can't just stick them in the ground. Now this ground is pretty moist. We had some rain last week. We won't have any rain for a while, but what you're trying to do is not only give the roots a drink, you do not want those roots drying out. And even with a little bit of moisture in the soil, I'm going to give it a little boost to give it a drink. Number 2, what you're doing is you're closing up those air pockets. You know, I pack the soil around it and I kind of tamp it down a little bit, but there's still air pockets there, and I want those gone. So I'm gonna water it. I'm gonna water it heavy, and I'm gonna water it, let it soak in till it's gone, and then I'll make another run down through here and another run down through here. In other words, I am going to really water it in real good. And you know, for the first couple of weeks, I'm this close to the house, I'll bring a bucket down here and give it a drink unless we get into some rain and stuff like that. But that's very critical, that when you get, after you get, whether it's blueberry bushes, whether it's fruit trees, whether it's nut trees, or whether it's just decorative trees, when you put something like that, or shrubbery around the house, don't just stick it in the hole. You know, when you put your fertilizer or whatever you're going to put with it, microhyzate, once you get it set, give it a drink of water, give it a fighting chance, because that's what you're trying to do here. Because I know from those the shrubbery up at the house, they are way proud of those things, and I'm not a fan because they don't produce anything. They look nice, mama loves them, you know, all those kind of things, and they do bloom and they're pretty, but they don't produce anything. So these produce, and I'm gonna make sure I give them the best start I can, so that one day they'll be providing food for my family. I got to get out of here, guys. It doesn't look like it really behind me in this camera, but it's getting dark out here, and it is a work night, so I got to get inside and get some things done and get cleaned up, because 4:30 comes real early, so I've got to get some things done and get into bed. But I'm gonna leave it right there. Guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I'm not done with these videos on these trees. I'll bring you back when I do the chestnuts and kind of show you what I'm going to do with them. But until then, like, subscribe, and share. Tell a friend. We're still growing. Hit that thumbs up button. And don't forget, we love you. God bless you. This is James from Butler Farms, and we'll be seeing you.